Welcome back to Tea with the OT. I'm your host, Rebecca Maddie. I am an occupational therapist specializing in pediatrics and emotional regulation. I should say emotional regulation and sensory processing within the context of pediatrics. However, I worked with adults and children on those two things. So today I am going to talk a little bit about a very common therapy tool that gets assigned frequently. And I've used it in my practice, and it is very powerful when it can be done correctly. We're talking about home programming or home exercises. And when I refer to home programming or home exercises, I am thinking about the essentially assignments that your therapist or provider has recommended that you do in between your therapy sessions. This home programming has been developed typically with your goals in mind and with the idea that doing these little tasks or making these little changes each day will help move your progress in the right direction. However, not every home program is built the same. And often some programming can feel overwhelming and can easily get swept to the wayside in favor of our regular day-to-day life, especially if we are living in survival mode, and especially if we have busy schedules and we're kind of already set in our ways. Incorporating new activities or exercises or programs can feel daunting and at times feel impossible, okay? And it's not through the failure of your own interest in engaging in therapy. I want to make that very clear. It is the human condition to have trouble incorporating new activities or habits into our already established routines, whether those established routines are intentional or not. So I'm just going to talk about a few key tips for incorporating those home programs or exercises that you may be given by a provider. So let's start off with the rule of one, and that is the idea of quality over quantity. Choose, let's think, have you been given a set of 5 exercises from your provider that are going to help you make progress? You can clarify with your provider whether or not it's necessary to do all 5 right away, but I recommend picking one and sticking to that one for a week, maybe a few days, and then switching to the next one. But choosing one thing to change or to incorporate is going to feel a lot more doable than trying to incorporate 5 new exercises or 5 new strategies into your day. I also encourage parents a lot when they are given a new strategy, like a visual schedule or a tool to try with their child, that you give that one thing a solid effort for 2 weeks before writing it off as this isn't going to work for us. If you are giving it a solid commitment, that visual schedule for 2 weeks, and you aren't seeing any payoff, that is when it might be time to try something different or adjust the strategy a little bit. Okay. Next up, let's talk about habit stacking. This may be a concept you've heard of before, but that's because it's effective and it works to incorporate new things into your routine. So the concept of habit stacking is you are tethering your new habit or your new change in your routine to one that already exists. So we can think about doing an important stretch for, range of motion during anytime you see an ad pop up on, a YouTube channel that you're watching, or you see or anytime you are at a stoplight, you incorporate that range of motion exercise. You're tethering that thing that you're trying to do more frequently to another external input or another habit that is already happening throughout your day. So for example, I have given clients strategies for incorporating more sensory input into their morning routine without disrupting the morning routine. So what that looked like is, brushing our hair while sitting on a exercise ball to give more of that vestibular input, or standing on a wiggle seat or a balance board while brushing your teeth, safely, to be able to just give a little bit more input, but not disrupt the flow of the things that have to occur during that morning routine. And making sure with both of these, making sure that you are really clear on the why. Why am I doing this exercise? Why are we incorporating this strategy into our day? Because being clear on the why is going to allow you to have just a little bit more buy-in and more motivation to actually engage in it. If I know why I'm doing a task, what is the end goal here? What is the outcome that I'm looking for? And that's going to give you a little bit more buy-in for incorporating it into your day. I also want to kind of talk a little bit about what we'll call like the therapy folder trap. Oftentimes I've seen, please excuse my dog. Hey, can you not? Thank you. I have seen the therapy folder trap happen on more than one occasion where I hand something to a client to incorporate, whether that be a poster or tool, and then it gets put in the therapy folder, which I appreciate a good folder, a good organization system. However, that's usually when that tool goes to perish and does not reemerge again. And so making sure that the one thing that you're working on is getting put somewhere that can be seen at least for a couple of weeks while you incorporate it into your day. If you've already got something visually on the board or on your fridge. Sorry, my dog is really distracting me. That's enough. If you've already got something on there that you're already working on, either talk to your provider about like, okay, should we keep working on this or should we kind of shift gears to this new thing? And if we are ready to shift gears, do that. If not, set a reminder in your phone, like for a week from now, to put that new thing up on your fridge, tape it to the wall, whatever that might be. I also have this conversation with the kids that I'm working with of, okay, here's the breathing posters for you to practice taking your deep breaths. And where do you think you would see this every day? And so I get their input too. Okay, it's just as important to include them in the planning process for how we are going to incorporate this new strategy into our day, because that allows a little bit more buy-in from our children, as well as that feeling of independence and ownership of incorporating this new strategy. So just my word of advice for not falling into that therapy folder trap and having things kind of go into that abyss. If a home program is too much, if it's feeling misaligned in any way, talk to your provider about it. Have the courage to say, I love these ideas, but they're just not working for us right now. Here's what it's looking like. What can we do differently? Or what other suggestions do you have? I loved when my clients did that because it allowed me to build a system and a program that actually would work for them. But if I don't get that feedback, I don't know what's not working. So it's important as a client to advocate for yourself when things are not working. I promise you won't hurt our feelings, or you shouldn't hurt your client, your provider's feelings. Just letting them know that while these ideas feel aligned or they feel good, It felt good at the time of scheduling it. It's just not working. Okay, have that open conversation with your provider. And so the actionable takeaway that I want you to recognize, my dog might bark, give us a minute, is having a check-in, whether that be a weekly or a daily check-in for how this program is working. And in order to support this, I have created a handout that you can incorporate into your, not into your therapy folder, but you can incorporate it into your home programming as a way for you to kind of keep a pulse and keep a check-in on how this program is moving forward. And it's just a quick circle, how this is going, easy, tough, or doable, whatever that might be. And then that allows you to take that back to your provider and say, here's how this is going day to day, and here's what's standing in the way. Here's what's making this difficult, okay? And so regularly checking in is going to help with making the progress in the right direction, okay? And so that just allows you to keep that data, and it's very important from a therapeutic standpoint and from a generating new habit standpoint, to be able to call back and say, wow, this really isn't working for me. I've seen over the past 7 days that this has been tough. I either need to adjust what I'm being asked to do or find a new way to do it, okay? So when you make these goals part of your connection to therapy, when you make the connection from therapeutic goals to functional goals, it's going to help you be more action oriented, and it's just going to help overall making that progress, whether that be for you as the parent or the progress for your child, okay? Overarching though, these home programs should not feel overwhelming. It should not add to that feeling of fight or flight, that survival mode, okay? We don't want to get to Sunday night and see that therapy folder on the table and say, oh, crap, I didn't do a single thing this week, okay? We want to get to the end of the week. We want to know we did one thing this week to move the needle, and we want to check in with that, and we want to be able to show our progress not only to our provider, but to ourselves. And this is going to be the way to do that. So go ahead and grab that free handout, and I hope to hear from you all soon, either in the comments or send me a message and just share a little bit about what your experience has been with getting home programs from either a provider that has worked for you or a provider for your child. Have you been overwhelmed by home programming in the past? And what has helped you get through it? Or what things are continuing to stand in your way? And what ways can you feel more supported potentially? Thank you again for joining me today on Tea with the OT. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to providing you even more content in the area of occupational therapy. Have a wonderful rest of your day.